welcome to Unscrupulous, the podcast where we talk dishonest folks whose victims always live to tell the tale. Hello, my good friend, Beck Rose.
Hello, Adam Lawler. How are you?
I am a little tired, but otherwise good. I'm super excited to tell you tonight's story.
I am right there with you. I am also tired. I'm blaming the changing of the seasons and that it gets dark so much earlier, but I am so pumped. I have gotten many a text from you today saying, so excited to tell you.
Oh, very ready.
So let me say the expectations have been set incredibly high.
Perfect. Cannot wait to let you down.
Excellent. You and every other man.
I mean...
Hashtag not all men.
All right. Are you ready to get into tonight's story?
I am buckled up. Expectations through the roof.
Skyrocketing.
Let's get into it.
All right. I will start off by saying that when I discovered this story, it tickled a thing in my brain about other stories like this where it is deeply terrifying to me.
Oh my god.
It's like a fundamental... I can't explain exactly why there's like the obvious surface level things, but I don't know why this stuff gets to me the most, but
that's been your last 2 weeks though. I've been like
no,
crimes underground and crimes in the sky.
In the sky.
And
Okay.
Those made me feel like I couldn't breathe while you're saying it. So the fact that you feel like this, I'm very nervous.
Maybe you'll be my rock at the end of the story. You'll be like, I'm fine. And I'll be
oh god, or we'll just both be a mess.
That's fair.
And that's the end of the pod.
That's it. Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
Have you ever heard of the Juarez Cobalt-60 incident?
No.
You know,
I don't even think I've heard all those words together.
Yeah, you know it's going to be good when incident is in the title.
It just sounded like word association. Like none of those... Like, why is a number at the end of it?
There's no there's no story there. There's no through line. It's just garbage.
You could have just been like, purple, backgammon, Sasquatch, and it would have been the exact same feeling of what you just said.
Like you've already called and are sending an ambulance to our house to be like,
are you stroking out? Like what? Okay, say it again. Juarez incident.
Juarez Cobalt-60 incident.
Oh, my brain did a weird flip in the 60 to the end, but okay.
Okay, so we're starting, and I apologize for any pronunciation issues. I'm reaching back into my Spanish days.
You did live in a Spanish-speaking country for a little bit.
I did, just a smidge of time, yes.
So no pressure.
Far more than necessary to be this bad at pronunciation.
Maybe I should cut that you used to live in one so that way people won't be like, dude, you should have known better.
Like, in the middle of the conversation, you'll just be like, and I have never spoken Spanish before.
I have not lived in a country.
Okay. So, we start at the Centro Médico de Especialidades, the Medical Center of Specialities, which is a private hospital in Ciudad Juarez in Mexico.
Okay, now you're just getting fancy with the pronunciation.
I'm putting the spice on it.
You're gonna say Barcelona any minute now. Ibiza.
Excuse me, I holiday in Spain.
Oh god, it never fails to entertain me. I don't know. It's such a low brow joke, and it always makes me laugh.
Like I don't know why it gets me so.
Barcelona.
So Juarez is a city on the northern border of Mexico. It's along the banks of the Rio Grande, and it's just south of El Paso in Texas.
Okay.
So point one in this story is way back in 1977, in November. the center purchases a radiotherapy unit called a Picker 3000 from a hospital company in Texas. This purchase seems to be financially legal, ethically and regulatorily shady as hell.
Okay, I'm so curious what it does if it's called a picker.
Yeah, so the machine is used to treat cancer patients, as radiotherapy often does, and it has an engine head inside that contains tiny pellets of Cobalt-60, which is a synthetic radioactive isotope.
That was in the title.
It was. This is the moment where we're like in the theater, like, woo!
He said the name. He said the name. And that's when the cannibalism started. Wait, what was yours?
The Fellowship of the Ring.
We are Men in Black. It's like a field of dreams.
Like, that's why the one-word titles always get you. It was like James Cameron writing the script for Titanic, and every time they say it, he's like, fuck. So this machine is in the country. It doesn't really go along with the regulations for this kind of machinery at the day. That's what's kind of shady about it. But it doesn't really cause that much of a problem because they end up storing it in a warehouse because they cannot find an operator available to actually use the machine. The machine is in storage for 6 years. Nobody has used it. On December 6th, 1983, the maintenance manager at the medical center wanted to do some cleaning, and he assigned the maintenance workers Vicente Sotelo and Ricardo Hernandez to go into the storage and get rid of anything that wasn't being used.
So they literally bought it, put it in storage, and then are just like, we'll just throw it away.
Yes. After 6 years of not being used, they've given up on the dream. Basically.
That seems like a great use of funds.
Oh, totally. Totally good. The other thing that's weird and obviously a red flag about this story is that this machine, I couldn't quite place it on the timeline, but at some point this series of machines was taken off, out of circulation because of manufacturing defects.
Okay.
So that may have played into
maybe the fact that they called it the picker and no one wanted to use it.
Yeah, everyone's like, no, not for me. It's
just sounds like someone's gonna scratch your cancer away.
That
just like flick it.
Come on, get out of here. Get out of here.
Pick it.
So Vicente Sotelo and Ricardo Hernandez, they go into storage, and among the medical relics and machinery that they know are there, the two stumble upon the Picker 3000 machine.
Sorry, it's just such a dumb name.
It's wild. It's so unintelligible. There's so many medical machines where you're like, okay, that does that. That's, you got it. Got it in.
But even the 3000 for some weird reason is getting me.
Yeah, it's like a 90s celebration. It sounds like a vacuum in an info.
It does. It does.
Yeah. So the two of them have no idea what this machine is. They just know that it's in the area where everything's supposed to get cleared out. So they see it. It's a huge machine. They think, all right, let's get it out of the way. And they break it down in the only way they know how, which is with a hammer.
That sounds awesome. I want that job.
Right, just smashing it good. Eventually...
It seems like a weird idea with radiology things.
With things that you, think might have, they're part of the radiology department, but I don't
it's
even
in the
know.
name?
Yeah, I don't even know if this is communicated to these two workers at all.
Got it.
Because they're under the employ of the medical center, but they're the maintenance staff. And from facts that come up later in the story, it would not surprise me if they were just there's a bunch of junk, get rid of it.
Got it.
So eventually they throw the now more manageable pieces of the machinery into the back of their company pickup truck, and this included the engine head of the radiotherapy machine. The men got curious about the engine head, which weighs about 100 kilograms, and it's clear that there's something inside it. According to a couple of different reports, they wanted to satisfy their curiosity either by more superbly deft hammer work or by drilling into it when it's in the truck bed. They're disappointed when all that spills out into the truck bed were hundreds and hundreds of tiny shards. Think like metallic sprinkles. They're that tiny. The pair then closed up the truck, drove to their destination to get rid of the cargo. As they drove, they can hear metallic grains sloshing around with each turn. Unknown to them, those shards are the Cobalt-60, and it is currently irradiating their truck.
Oh my god.
The whole way to the local junkyard.
It's like Dante's Peak.
Yeah. And they go to the junkyard because they are selling everything they found as scrap metal. They toss everything into the metal dumpster on the site, and the engine head sells for $9.
Wait, but you said it was eroding their car?
Irradiating.
Irradiating, as in making their car like, radioactive.
Yes.
Okay.
So Sotelo, to the soundtrack of the radioactive grains that are still present in the truck bed and skittering around in the back, drives his truck home to his densely populated neighborhood near the Rio Grande. It's here that the truck either suffers a mechanical failure, a flat tire, or the battery is stolen while it's parked outside of Sotelo's house.
Those are a lot of different options.
Yeah, I'm not sure why all of this happened. The truck was there and stationary. Yeah, we did so many visual things there. There's so many pieces.
But, like, they could have had a flat tire.
Mm-hmm.
The car could have had a mechanical issue. Or the engine could have been stolen.
It could have been all three. Like, it's wild. I suspect that if the battery was stolen, it was stolen later because the truck was just sitting outside of the house. Because whatever happened, the truck remains parked on this busy residential street outside of Sotelo's house for over a month.
Okay.
Silently and invisibly radiating anyone who comes close enough.
Now, is this like the day this happened, something happens to the car? Like
It's an immediate thing.
Okay.
So there's no...
So just like really bad timing.
Yeah. So it's the worst possible time for this to have happened.
I'm also trying not to focus on the fact that you said the engine sold for $9 when there was a hole in it.
Yeah. But it's just the engine head. And nobody knows, like, including
you say it
the
like I
people
know
who
what an
work
engine head is.
I don't think they do. They're just like...
I know. I don't know what an engine head is. You keep saying engine head.
I think we all know what engine head is, and that's why I didn't define it or look into it very far because I got confused. That was not what happened.
I have no idea. It did not intimidate me. I'm a man.
Mechanical! It basically, it's like a cylinder shape, but it's filled with this Cobalt-60. So the truck itself, from about a yard away, is capable of producing 50 rads worth of radiation. A rad is a unit of radiation that's absorbed.
I'm a rad.
I also find it hilarious that it's rad. Like, 50 rads! Like, just
like what unit of measurement?
But also falling apart slowly.
It's not, it's like a misnomer. Something so radical.
Yeah, they were going with the original definition of radical, and then the 90s just ruined it for them. So, to put this into perspective, a chest x-ray at the time delivers 20 to 30 millirads. The highest exposure possible for a bystander around 3 Mile Island nuclear accident was 100 millirads, or 1/10 of a rad. So this truck is sending off waves of radiation to the strength of 50 rads.
Wow.
1 to 50 per hour is considered a significant dose if you were to be hit with that. If your entire body is bathed in 450 rads, there's about a 50% chance that you will survive.
Oof.
Each pellet in the engine head could give off 25 rads per hour for the 2 inches in any direction around it. The machine head has 6,010 Cobalt-60 pellets.
Oh my god. And when they were in the engine head, it was totally safe?
It was contained. It might not have been totally safe just because of the manufacturing defects, but because it was in there, they weren't in use, and generally the stuff that they use to encase it is protective.
Okay.
But that is out of the window as soon as they broke open the engine head.
Of course.
Now we're jumping ahead to January 17th, 1984, when the alarm for radioactive material goes off at Los Alamos National Lab in New Mexico. Then the alarms are meant to warn of like impending radiation and possibly a form of attack. So the facility is on high alert and they're looking everywhere for what set off this alarm. And eventually they find the culprit, which is a shipping truck that is just outside the gates of the lab. And it turns out that the driver was transporting a metal shipment. The fact that he tripped the alarms at all was a complete fluke because he had just taken a wrong turn and accidentally drove by the facility. This is the only reason we figured out what happened in this incident at all.
Okay, so to be clear, when you say it's a fluke, like that he passed the alarm sensor.
Yes.
Okay, it did accurately set it off.
It accurately set it off because of the radiation.
A detector.
He just should not have been there. Yeah, it was a complete accident. He took a wrong turn and drove right by the center that happened to have these alarms go off. And honestly, through the rest of the story, I think if that truck driver had not made that wrong turn, we still wouldn't know about this.
Oh my god, okay.
So, turns out the scrapyard in Juarez was quite a busy one. To move large quantities of metal, huge magnets are used. And the magnets attracted all of those loose radioactive pellets. Those made the magnets radioactive, which in turn made whatever metal they came into contact with radioactive.
Whoa.
Yeah. Not only this, the dumpster that they dumped all of the scrap metal into was used by several companies. The metals and the pellets were collected, shipped off, and then unknowingly smelted together for use in rebar and metals in restaurant table legs.
Holy shit.
For over a month, these materials were shipped out, melted, cast, and then shipped out again all over Mexico and the US. And the whole time, the radiation is silently and invisibly seeping into everything and everyone around it.
Can I ask a dumb question about
Go for it.
Radioactivity?
I don't know if I'll be able to answer it, but go for it.
Does it occur naturally, or is it like a man-made thing?
There are some forms that occur naturally. Like the sun technically is like a radioactive body. So there are certain forms. It just depends on, like, as far as I understand it, like what the source of the radiation is. Because there's some stuff like Cobalt-60 is like a synthetic, it's a byproduct of another process that becomes radioactive. It's not like a naturally, you're never going to be digging around and find like a line of Cobalt-60.
Yeah, okay.
So that's like human constructed, but there are elements out there that are just radioactive. And then there's varying levels of like how radioactive a thing is. So after a frantic investigation, the sources of the radiation were tracked down. Sotelo's truck was moved from the street, but then for some reason kept in a nearby public park, just roped off, before it was eventually buried in a safe disposal site. Workers were sent out.
Wait, when they knew it... Sorry. It was... When did they find out... Where was it sitting when they found out it was radioactive?
Still in the neighborhood.
In that parking lot.
Just on the street outside of Sotelo's house.
So for years?
Yeah, no, not for years. This was at the end of 1983, in December, was when the incident actually first took place. And then we're in like late January, early February.
And he still hasn't fixed his car?
No, absolutely not.
Great, no judgment.
Crucial step, it is a company car, so they can fix it.
Yeah.
So, workers are sent out into the junkyard and into the city of Juarez to find and sweep up any radioactive material they found, because they realized that because this thing essentially is just sprinkle-sized radioactive metallic flecks, and the truck is not like hermetically sealed, potentially these bits are flying all over the street. By all accounts, the workers are not given proper protection. And in fact, many are reported to have never been given protection at all.
Oh my God.
Their tools for sweeping it up? A standard household broom.
Oh my God.
So by the time the danger had been tracked down, many buildings contained the radioactive rebar. They were already fully built. There are buildings found that have levels of radiation that are so high they actually have to be demolished. In the following months, thousands of tons of radioactive material are rounded up and disposed of. Tens of thousands are still thought to be out there. In buildings, in table legs. We just don't know where it ended up.
Wow.
Cobalt-60 has a half-life of a little over 5 years. So while it wouldn't be dangerous today, the incident exposed thousands of people, maybe more, people living or working in radioactive buildings, people walking by small pieces in the street and picking them up with the grit on their shoes, children playing near and on Sotelo's vacant truck.
Mm-hmm.
Radiation that has no smell, no taste, no telling sign that anything is wrong. It just sat, leaking out into the world, all because a medical center made questionable decisions and two poor men wanted to just make a little bit of cash on the side. And that
was a horror story.
Is the Ciudad Juarez radiation incident. Isn't that horrifying?
That sucks.
This there are so many other stories like this. I literally could not cover those ones because this is it's considered, they call it the Chernobyl, Mexico's Chernobyl. It happened 2 years before Chernobyl happened. And it's still, I believe, the worst accidental radiation incident in the entirety of North America. Yeah, it's horrifying. But if you ever want to ruin your day, just go and look up, because honestly, it's the same stories all the way down. Abandoned hospitals, scrap metal people come in, find a machine, break it apart. There's this horrifying story in Brazil, I think, where at one point the radioactive material, I forget what kind it was, but it's the stuff that glows in the dark. Mm-hmm. And they found this and were just having a ball with it. They were painting their
glow
faces. They painted necklaces and sold them at markets. It honestly just chills. I cannot
I am speechless. Holy cow.
So scary. So
trust
scary.
Nothing and no one.
Seriously. It's wild. But this one, there's no immediate reported deaths. It's really difficult to measure that kind of thing, because then you need to be aware of everything that was happening, but like some people do point to some slightly elevated rates of different cancers in Juarez and some birth defects. But in terms of like the immediate radiation effects, no one got acute radiation poisoning, which
none of it sounds cute.
But none of it is good. Like, it's all...
That was a joke.
So scary. Like, it's just... Oh, God. It's just... Yeah. Shivers.
You just totally bypassed my joke.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
You said it was a cute, and I said none of it was cute.
I missed that. That was me being stupid. I'm sorry.
We need, like, an Aaron Brockovich on the case.
Yes.
Sounds like a case... Like a... Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so the other ones that you heard, it's all hospital stuff.
Very often, yeah, because that stuff, the main stories are because, like, hospitals have been abandoned, they've moved the equipment out, but, like, in a lot of cases, so much of this machinery is so ridiculously heavy that you just don't have the infrastructure to move it. So eventually, like the one in, I believe it was Brazil. I could be wrong about that though. But it was, everyone knew it was there. And they legally had to have a guard watching the building because there's radioactive material in there that will never be moving because they just can't figure out where to put it. And the night that machine was tampered with, it just so happened that guard, like, just took the night off.
Of course.
And, like, it's, like, literally not even, like, a scam. It wasn't a scheme or a plan. He just happened to take that night off, and then people looking for scrap metal happened to go to that hospital that night and find that machine.
Wow.
Yeah.
So... I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say in this story there's like a person who's unscrupulous, a institution?
I would say it's a mix of institutions and like you have like two individuals involved, but I don't really blame them because they were sent to do the job that they did. Yeah. That was
so society is unscrupulous is what you're saying. That's who we're signing it.
Just like everything that starts that like this instigating factor of like you're bringing in this absurdly dangerous thing and then not bothering to tell anybody, protect anybody. You know that you shouldn't have this in the conditions that it's in, and then to just put it away in storage and never talk about it again is wild. There's no difference.
Yeah, and when you get rid of it, to not warn people.
Yes.
And then when you're cleaning it up, that's the one that shocked me the most, is that like when they went to go clean it up, they weren't given proper protection.
Yeah.
Because it's like you literally know what you're going to go get.
Exactly. Like at that point, you understand what that material is. And you're just like, here you go for it. But the thing is Juarez is like there are parts of Juarez that are gorgeous and but there's a lot of it that suffers from poverty and a lot of like really difficult labor jobs. So this like guaranteed like these were workers that are desperate for any form of income.
Also, if it's not communicated to you, like these are dangerous. Like they could have just as easily said, hey, like these things spilt, we got to go pick them up and find them.
Yeah.
With no other explanation of,
Yeah, and like because these workers are going out without protection and with brooms, I am willing to bet that is what happened. Because if they told them the truth about what they were cleaning up, they would not go out there. Like, as little as you know about nuclear power, like, I am not a nuclear physicist. I know what radiation is. I know that's not good. So, like, if...
I know the word.
Yeah, like, if you...
I know the word equals scary.
Oh, it's just such a terrifying story. And it's just so, like, it's haunting. Like, I can see the images in my mind of, like, fade in, and you're just, like, staring at this truck as kids are playing all around it.
Yeah.
And, like,
and even the idea of, like, brooms, like, that's probably not the safest way to collect it. That's probably going to spread more. Like,
spread more. It can get stuck in the bristles, and then it's just going to spread to wherever you put that thing. It's yeah. None of
the
it.
whole thing. It's very odd.
Yeah, none of it is well handled. And then it's just, again, like, I fall back on, like, how effective the Western North American propaganda machine is of, like this was Mexico's Chernobyl, and we don't learn about that at all.
Exactly. Like, you can say Chernobyl and we know at least, like, vaguely what that is.
Exactly. And then, but,
and there's no name
like,
for this. And this happened before.
Yeah, it happened 2 years before. It wasn't even that long before.
But also in terms of, like, this sounds awful, but in terms of, like, a story, I think, like, it's not as catching as Chernobyl. Like, that was, and I don't know why, but I'm wondering if it's almost like like, there's something quiet about this story.
Yes.
Like,
I think it's very much,
maybe they could sweep it under the rug, and Chernobyl they couldn't sweep it. Like, it was too public.
It's like the drama of it. It's doing the thing that you baseline think about when you think about nuclear power, in that, like, it exploded. There was an explosion, people died, like, it was birds falling out of the sky kind of thing. It's very dramatic, and it is horrifying. Like, it's not a nice story, but it has that, like,
it's one event.
It's one event. Like, you can point, it's like that exact thing, and then you...
And it's people's workplace, right?
Yeah. Chernobyl was the power plant kind of thing. And then you have, like...
And that's the thing, too. It's a power plant. Like, there's no way that would not go on the news.
Exactly.
Whereas this, it's like an abandoned car. Like, that's so easy to just ignore.
Yeah, and it's somewhere else. Like, Chernobyl is Ukraine, which at the time is just the Soviets. So it's like, oh yeah, well, of course it happened in Soviet Russia kind of thing. Like, that kind of thing doesn't happen here.
Wow, that was horrifying, but I really liked the angle of that story. Like, I like that it wasn't a person, that we can almost, like, it is a discussion of, like, who is the person, not necessarily to blame, but, like, where do we look at where the problems originated from, if we can.
Exactly, yeah. And I just thought it would be interesting to have that like, tell that story and have that discussion with you, because, again, like, in the same way that so much true crime content focuses on murder and death or like horrific trauma, it also too often, for my liking, focuses on, like, retribution. It, like, the blame and how do we get back at that person or that group for doing this bad thing.
And that was the first question I had.
Yeah.
Who are we mad at? And you're like, I think that we do that too much.
But I think it's right, because, like, that was your because all of our other stories, like, it's quite clear. Like, we can empathize, like, we can feel for the people involved, but, like, there's a specific attachment. It's like, oh, it's these people.
And this one there isn't really, I think, a clear answer.
No,
like,
and I think that's
there's
what makes
mistakes
it more
all around,
difficult and, like, less easy to catch on as a public narrative.
And maybe, like, I could see that it not being as flashy of a story because it's real. Like, it could happen to you in a way that, like, Chernobyl feels more distant. Yes. Like, well, I don't work in a power plant, or, like, power plant, or, like, I don't live in the Soviet Union. Like, this, or I don't even know it.
But no,
the idea that, like, this could just happen. Like, I see cars parked. Like, there was a car that had a flat tire that was parked on the street by me for weeks that I drove by. And every time I thought, that sucks. Like, you got to deal with that. That could have had something like that. Like, and I just walked by it.
Yeah.
And like, I know I made a joke about the Aaron Brockovich thing, but it's kind of like that too. Like, they literally were just drinking water and just like living their lives and swimming and stuff. And it can affect you when you don't see it coming. Like, that's really scary.
Yeah, and I think it's far more muddy and uncomfortable to grapple with. Like you're saying, like, oh, with Chernobyl, like, there's an explosion, I can run in the other direction. Something bad happening there, like fire there, I'm going. I will not wait, kind of thing. Whereas this, like, ever since I learned this story, when I go out onto our driveway, which is gravel at night, but it's all mixed gravel, and under the moonlight, if you get like a really strong full moon, some of the rocks have a shine to them.
Oh no.
And it's just this like moment of, that could have been what someone saw and not thought about it, because it's just gravel. It's dust. Like, it's
and these stories, I think, almost show the blind spots in the society we created.
Yes.
Like, there isn't enough funding for hospitals or to take care of them. And of course it would fall through the cracks that I'm sure someone knew, oh, whenever we get rid of that, like, we got to remember that it's radioactive.
Yeah, exactly.
But then, like, something falls through the cracks years later. It didn't get used. They probably didn't think about it again. Like, it's just these little, like, it's all so many small human mistakes that led to driving the boat that, like, went by the detector.
Oh,
like,
the truck driver? Yeah.
Oh, why did I picture water? Like, yeah, that is such a, like, a human error. Like, oh, I turned the wrong way, and it stumbled upon, like, these weird little snowball butterfly effects.
Yeah, it just, it's such a...
I've never seen the Ashton Kutcher movie Butterfly Effect, but I understand what the meaning of the phrase is.
Yeah, our podcast is not brought to you by the 2001
The
Ashton Kutcher
films.
vehicle Butterfly Effect. But yeah, that is my deeply, deeply unsettling story of the Cobalt-60 incident in Ciudad Juarez.
Yeah, wow. What's the 60 again? Oh, it's called Cobalt-60.
Yeah,
is
Cobalt-60.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. I am so pumped to tell you this story. I have never heard of it before, and then I was just kind of Googling for stories for the podcast and found this one, and was just blown away that I'd never heard of it. And then when I was telling Cameron about it, my partner, he was like, oh, is this that movie we watched? And I was like, do you mean The Imposter? And he said, yes. And I was like, no, it's another one.
Oh my, okay, I'm so excited.
Yeah. And then it was funny because he's like, a lot of people do that. I'm like, yeah, people are not trustworthy. It's why I made a whole podcast about it. So similar to my beautiful co-host, please apologize, or I'm apologizing in advance for my pronunciation.
You're forcing me to apologize for your pronunciation.
No, I said similar to how you had apologized for yours.
Yes.
I'm following suit. Adam, apologize for me.
We are so sorry, everybody.
We try so hard.
I did my best.
Okay, so this is the story of Artur Samarian.
Okay.
I believe is how it's pronounced. You will not hear me say that last name again the whole time because I don't trust myself.
Okay, so we're sticking with Artur.
Artur,
Okay.
which I love because... Okay, so sorry. I don't know why I'm telling so many stories about Cam, but Cameron's middle name is Arthur, and I always call him Cameron Artur.
Ooh, okay.
So I was very excited that this was his name was Artur.
Yeah.
Because it's fun to say. So when Artur was 19, he was in the Ukraine going to university. He jumped at the chance to be a part of this exchange program that his school was running, where a student is able to travel to the US for the summer and work a service job.
Okay. Is it like a... It's not an exchange, though? It's just, like, the program is from Ukraine to the US, but no US student is taking your place?
Not that I know of. It could have been, but this one in particular, like, just the idea of it is like, are you in the Ukraine? Do you want to come experience the US?
Right.
Come work a really shitty job.
And you'll get it.
And we pay you below minimum wage. And you're stuck at, like, a Burger King takeout window for hours.
It's the American dream.
Yeah, and that did hit him quite quickly. But before that, he said that from the moment that the flight crew welcomed the passengers to America, he fell in love and was instantly trying to figure out how to stay there forever.
Okay.
One of the things about Artur as well is that he was really smart, probably smarter than his surroundings and situation was able to handle.
Oh, okay.
And what, like, would really afford him in life. He had this dream of attending an American university and going to graduate school. He wanted to work for NASA one day. He had really romanticized his whole situation. He thought, I will go and I'll work these 3 months and I'll save up enough money and I'll just go to university in the fall.
Okay.
But school in Western side of the world is stupid, crazy expensive, especially to what he was used to at home. And costs were about 10 to 20 times what he would have been paying in the Ukraine. And while he's here, he's finding, like, I'm working all the time. I don't have free time. I can't make friends. Like, he's lonely. But this is his dream to be here.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, as a foreign national, he wouldn't be able to apply for any scholarship despite his clear academic abilities. I mean, I'm sure he could go try and apply for a scholarship, but given his current visa and everything, it wasn't going to work.
Right.
He's working his butt off, hardly has any free time, but within the housing complex he was working, there was an adult couple who didn't have any children of their own. They become friends, and he would go over to their house for dinner, and he would share his ambitions and his panic over wanting to stay in America and how he's running out of time. Because once this exchange is over, his visa's up and he has to go back.
Mm-hmm.
So this part is contested by both parties. So the couple, their names are Stephanie McClure Potts and Michael Potts.
Okay.
So they claim that Artur came up with it, and Artur claims that they came up with it. But at the end of the day, it was come up with the idea that they would adopt Artur.
Okay. And so
that was horrible English.
Is this the, like, was this the couple he was living with while he was in?
So he's not living with them. He's in, like, a housing complex, and he meets them within the complex.
Oh.
So it's just like, oh, I'm, like, from the Ukraine. I don't have any friends. Oh, you should come over for dinner sometime. And yeah. And that, like, I think especially, like, if they are a bit older and don't have kids, it's like, we just wanted to make him feel welcome.
Right.
Yeah, so they decided, we'll adopt you. And this part is according to Artur. He said that they had a few stipulations. Just to make it easy for everyone. Don't think about it. You're thinking about it, don't think about it.
Gotcha.
The Potts would agree to adopt Artur on the condition that he starts saying that he is in fact 14 instead of his actual 19.
Okay.
Apparently, this was done so they would be allowed to adopt him. They told him there was an issue with his age, but also this way his new adoptive parents would get a payout from the Social Security Administration and an extra tax benefit because they would be raising a minor.
Okay. Red flags everywhere, but we're plowing through.
I mean, the moment someone says, ignore your visa, red flags.
Yes, that's very true. I already feel like the, like, tensions of being like, never break the government rules. Like, it's...
I had a friend who was, like, I think a day or two later on their flight, and there was a huge hassle.
Yeah.
And it was like, but I'm trying to leave your country. And it was like, but why would you stay?
Yeah.
It's like that movie where she's from the UK and he's from the US and they spend the entire time.
Like Crazy.
like crazy, and the whole thing is because she overstayed her visa at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it gives me so much anxiety. So anyways, they say, do us a favor. Say you're 14. It'll be fine. They also asked him to pay $2,000 to them, which was like money he'd saved up over the summer, that they were going to pay towards adoption costs. They take his passport from him. They file the proper paperwork, and they even meet with an attorney.
Okay.
So come September 2012, instead of starting the fall at an American university, as Artur had dreamed, he would be starting high school as Asher Potts.
Okay.
When people had questions for Asher, he had answers at the ready. Surely something he and the Potts had prepared for. Asher, why do you have such a thick accent if you claim to be American? Oh, that? I grew up in the Russian Jewish neighborhood down by the river.
Oh, yes, of course.
Asher, why haven't any of us met you before 9th grade? Oh, that? I was homeschooled down by the river.
I was at elementary school. Guys, I wasn't in high school yet. It's me, Asher. Oh.
But the fact that, like, he hadn't even been to the same elementary school from them, and he's like, I'm from these parts.
What year is this again, sorry?
I didn't tell you the year because I don't know the year.
Okay.
2018.
2018.
That's when the article was written.
Way more recent
than like it should have been. Yeah. So another one of the questions would be like, hey, Asher, why was your name Artur a couple weeks ago? Because, like, when he started a school, he was Artur, and then they changed it to Asher. And he would joke, I'm a Russian spy.
And then not one person who asked that was like, follow-up question. My first question, you didn't answer it.
Yeah.
Like,
why do you have a thick accent, buddy?
Wait, so why Artur?
No, Asher. I'm
I see
Asher.
where you're confused. I'm Asher from high school.
Oh, sorry. I should be clear. This was the year that this was written, but I guess it would have happened like 2013.
That's still way more recent.
It is really recent, but it should be clear that this was after it was all found out, 2018. Okay. So it would have been before that. So Artur, now Asher, he's doing his best to blend in. At the beginning, all he wants to do is just like fly under the radar, not raise any suspicions. He obviously has no problem in the classes since he was already smart. Plus, he's 19.
Yep.
Doing 14-year-old homework.
Can you imagine how stressed those 14-year-olds are when he is just like whipping out the answers and they're like, oh god.
Oh my god. Your homeschooling was really good, bro. So, yeah, he's trying to just seem like a regular student, but as the years, that's right, years go by, he starts to win people over. He's charming. He's a great student. He's achieving straight A's. He teaches kids how to swim at the YMCA. He becomes a color guard in the Navy. I don't know, Adam. I don't know what that is. He makes friends. He gets a girlfriend. He attends football games. He spends summers in this like science and math program at Penn State, getting to work in these university labs that he'd fantasized about, only having to pretend he's a child instead of getting to be there as a student.
This is turning out to be our most heartwarming scam yet. But I'm waiting for the bottom to drop.
I would say the bottom drops, but I would say this is something that doesn't have malice. But I would say also the imposter, I don't think... that's a whole other conversation. Anyways, to continue his accolades. He sat on the school board as a junior representative. He took extra credit classes down at the local university downtown. He received awards for academic achievement and community service, posed for pictures with local politicians. The mayor of Harrisburg even named a day in October Asher Potts Day.
That is incredible.
That's wild. So he went from going under the radar to having a day named after him.
Was it just like, this is the great hope of our future? Like,
what do you mean? Like the town like to him?
What was he? Is it just like he's a good volunteer? Like everybody just loves this kid so much? Yeah,
it just like it stood out. Like all those things. Like he volunteers in the community. He's like a great student. He's a great person. Like everyone just loves him, and this has like been his dream. So he's just like giving it his all. He's acing his tests. His GPA is soaring. And he even begins to look at universities to go to after high school.
God. Okay.
So at this point, he would have been saying he's 17, but he actually would have been 22.
Oh boy, that's the window is rapidly closing.
Okay. Yeah. It's like 21 Jump Street, the movie. I have to go to university. Yeah. So things are going great, like in the community, in the public eye. But at home, as these things often are, it's not going well. He said that he had been sleeping on a pull-out couch inside a walk-in closet.
They Harry Potter,
and that they would. Yeah, it's actually just in the article. Everyone was just, like using the Harry Potter reference. But he has a walk-in closet, and Harry had a cupboard, so. They would hold his immigrant status over his head. There was apparently, he was saying, this is all from his perspective, is important to keep in mind. He's saying that there was a lot of expectations on him to keep up with the cooking for the family, doing laundry, tidying the house, and he claimed that they would physically abuse him.
Oh my God. So this is like, from his story, like it's indentured servitude, basically. Like, he can't do anything about it. He has no recourse. Like, you can't go to
He's stuck.
You can't tell anybody, because then they'll just be like, hey, guess what? Mm-hmm. You're not our kid.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, they're definitely... And, like, it's hard because at the beginning of this story, I was like, who is this couple? Like, I just didn't feel like there was enough information about them. And as it goes on, I think it becomes a bit more clear why they agreed to do this. But in my mind, at the beginning, it sounds like, oh, this is kindness. But then you're like... Having him lie is weird. Making him give his money is weird.
Taking his passport is weird.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So as he's entering his senior year and he's looking into post-secondary education, he starts getting a lot of mail, especially because he's so good. These schools want him to come. Stephanie and Michael were not really loving the extra attention. And they're saying, like, stay low. Like, do not draw eyes to us. He keeps claiming, like, none of the, like, it's all unsolicited. I'm not asking for this mail. But, like, it is not helping to this added tension. Once they heard, though, that some of the schools were offering scholarships, apparently they softened up a bit. And they even went on visits with him to the campuses.
Okay.
Yeah. During his pretend adolescence, he had run away a few times when the heat became too much to bear at home. And then he'd come home, like, when it calmed down. And a lot of it was that they would threaten, like, if you don't come home, we're going to go to the police. So he was forced to.
I just realized, like, how much that reality would play into him being super involved in the community.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have already been a great kid, but like, if this part is true, yeah, it would be even more motivation to never be home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in February of his senior year, 3 months before he's meant to graduate, he had run away for good, leaving Mama and Papa Potts to go stay with a friend. It seems that their earlier threats were not completely empty, though, because they quickly called the police and said that their adopted son had lied about his age, And for added urgency, they said that he had talked to them about wanting to bring a weapon to school. It should be noted there's no proof that he said that. In fact, the opposite. He clearly loved his life outside of his home.
Why would he? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, my personal belief is that they said that because they wanted to discredit him ASAP and get the police involved. The next morning, as he's sitting in class, a couple of police officers enter the classroom and walk up to his desk. It was once they addressed him as Artur that he knew he was in some real trouble. His adoptive parents completely turn on him right away. They suck. They're trying to play this sympathetic card. We just wanted to be parents. We only wanted to love him. We gave him everything we could. They claimed that they didn't know his true age when they adopted him. He's 5 years older. How are you going to be like, I'm 22, shaving my 22-year-old beard, and then being like, I think he's 17. It's not a very good lie. They said that in recent months, things had changed, that he had become darker, and this apparently was when he threatened violence against his classmates. Not only then were they living with an illegal immigrant who was illegally imposing himself upon public school children, they were now, they told the police, living with a foreign terrorist.
Oh, boy. Okay.
So let's talk the legal trouble that he was looking at. Artur was steadfast that his intentions had been good, that he had come to this country legally, but when he overstayed his visa, he violated those terms. Next, the fact that he enrolled in a state-funded school meant that he was essentially stealing an education. These charges were threatened, but they were never followed through with. There were a couple more serious charges they were a little interested in. So he had been taking these courses at a local university, and through that, they had an opportunity to travel to Iceland to conduct research on climate change. Did he use the passport he'd given the Potts for adoption proceedings? No. He just applied for a new one under the name Asher Potts.
Mm-hmm.
That's fraud.
Yes.
And that shit's federal. The other big problem was with his girlfriend. So, trigger warning.
Yeah.
She was under the impression that her boyfriend was 17 when she decided to have sex with him, not knowing he was actually 22 to her 15.
Okay.
He was charged with something called involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, and he awaited his trial. His defense team worked from the angle of his intentions were good. He just wanted an honest American life, and he fell prey to these two American adults who had used him to make extra money and masterminded the entire thing. They pointed out that it wasn't like he stole someone's identity, who was a great person, who had accomplished a bunch of things. Artur had done all of the hard work under this person's identity.
Right. Yeah,
does that make sense?
You're not stealing. You're not, like, impersonating anyone. You are just, like, this is a person from
it's not like Asher Potts did these things and Artur took
and
his
then
name.
Gets all of that, like, surplus positive vibes from the community. Like, this is, okay.
He earned them. So they pointed out that he never cheated. He had won the spotlight that he had on him currently, and that he was living as Asher all the time. You know, it was understandable that his identity blurred, and that's why he thought it was okay to have sex with his underage girlfriend.
I mean, with the way the legal system treats anything around sexual assault, I can see why you would make that argument officially, but, like, that's not great. Not great!
No, and we don't hear from her, and I would be very interested to hear. Yeah. So in the fall of 2016, he received 11 and a half to 23 months in a county prison for the sex charge. And it was lowered during the proceedings to a statutory sexual assault, plus an additional 2 months in federal prison for the passport and Social Security fraud charges. Once he was in federal prison, it was up to immigration services, and he was deported back to the Ukraine. He admits that he was pretty bitter at the time, and he felt that America had, quote, spat him out. He flew direct from JFK to Kiev, and his mother was there with her arms wide open to greet him when he landed. So where is everyone now? So at the time of publication in 2018, he was able to return to school in the same place that where he was when he left 5 years earlier in the Ukraine. He had been in his second year at the time. He says that a lot of the faculty are aware of his situation, but many of his classmates are not. He still has aspirations to go to graduate school and get a PhD. And he says that he's currently getting straight A's, not a single B. And that the teachers sort of let him come and go as he pleases since he knows, like, everything they're teaching. He sort of just has to, like, get past the final 2 years and then he can get back on track with his goals. That's kind of where he's at. He says he knows he'll never be able to return to Western universities, but he did mention that some local witches had told him that they saw him returning to America one day. And he kind of seemed to be holding onto some sort of hope in that. I did some Googling, and I couldn't find out what has happened to him since that time. He does have an Instagram, and if it's the right one that I found, he's married. His bio describes him as a counselor, business product production, hotels, education, and pack business. I don't know what that means. Mama and Pop Potts. I was so confused about what to believe, only hearing this from Artur's side. I really wanted to hear more about them, and there really was not a ton. Except for the fact that when they were both charged in this case, and Stephanie got actual jail time because she had charges in the past for fraud and theft by deception. Oh. So they were not squeaky clean, in my opinion.
Not their first rodeo.
No, so it really changes the idea of their dinners and being able to, you know, having that discussion of like, well, how can we help him? Maybe this can help us a bit. So Michael received 2 years of probation, and Stephanie, who I said had the previous convictions, received 5 months in a federal prison and 2 years of probation for Social Security fraud and harboring an illegal alien.
Wow.
And that's the story of Artur Samarian.
Was a roller coaster. Oh my god.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I do think that there was only good intentions, but there was real missteps with obviously his girlfriend and getting a new passport.
That was, but like the thing that's interesting to me too is that he is obviously very smart. He knows what this is gonna do if it ever comes out. But I'm going back to the fact that like he's living this life, and the Potts had his passport, and I bet that they would not just give, like, they have his passport for a reason, and it's to keep him there. And like if he goes to jail for fraud, if he gets his own passport, well, that has nothing to do with them. And like.
And so I actually don't fully agree with you when you say that he knew what would happen, because he is smart, but he was a kid when this started.
But how old was he when he went to ICE?
He would have been in his 20s. But by that point, he had been living as a teenager. And also, he had 2 older people who had already become kind of parental figures telling him it was going to be okay.
Right.
And so I can see why he would be swayed. I mean, by that age, he definitely should have known better. But, like, I don't know what it's like to live in the Ukraine and want to live in the States. Like, I can understand the motivation, and especially being like, I want a higher education, and then seeing, like, I can't afford these things. But here's a way that someone's offering to get me there. And I can relive my teenage years.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's like,
but he shouldn't have had sex with anybody. That was a selfish move. I don't really give a shit about identity fraud if he didn't hurt anybody.
Wholesale.
But I just feel so much. I feel so bad for his girlfriend and how betrayed and gross she must have felt finding out.
And to be, I mean, obviously different story if the articles and things written about the case, like if she has wanted to stay separate from that, but it's pretty rough that we don't hear anything from her.
Well, she would have been a minor when it came out, so I can understand why we don't
suppose
hear anything.
So would her identity have been completely anonymized then?
I think so. Okay. I didn't see her name when I was looking into the story much at all.
So yeah, I guess that does make sense. But yeah, that's so strange.
It's a wild story because there's I just find there's layers to it, and like there's someone searching for the American dream, which like we know people strive for. We've all read Death of a Salesman. And I can see so many of his intentions being positive, and even the fact that he's like, I'm not coming here to like bum off of you, and like them saying that he stole an education because it was government funded. Like that is such a eye roll. And
I mean, in general, it's just not even like an American or like a U.S. viewpoint, because a lot of it is in Canada too. But
it feels like some type of like government totalitarian bullshit. But I understand why they would have argued that, because they probably were trying to look for like anything to stick. So like he did come and do his best. So that's the story.
It does that thing in my head, which I love, when I'm like contemplating about it, and then I'm like, oh, why am I even thinking about this? The answer or like the theme is obviously X. Or like the person who was wrong was this, the hero was this, and then like a thing will pop up and I'm like, oh wait, no, that's not true, because then these 5 things, but like everything is in contention. That's such a cool story.
Yeah, 2 stories that kind of like, it's a little ambiguous of like, I think they're both kind of gray, like, yeah. I do think that the parents, like Stephanie and Michael, should have known better. Obviously, I think that they definitely deserve to have like the book thrown at them. I don't know how much of what he's saying is true, but it is objective fact that they told the police what appears to be a lie about him wanting to be violent. And they did, as soon as he like left on his own and was like, guys, I'm not putting up with this anymore, they totally fucked him over.
Yeah, it's that.
And brought the heat on themselves after they were all mad just about some like university pamphlets coming in the mail. Don't draw attention to us. Boop, boop, boop. 911.
I feel like everybody. It's almost like everybody bought into their own narrative so much so that they buried themselves weirdly.
Yeah, they've totally lost reality.
That's so bizarre.
They were all living in like a movie.
Yeah. And like the consequences are so separate from you. Like you're above it watching it, so that like I can imagine them like calling, saying it, hanging up, and then being like, oh.
See, I don't even think then. I see them being like, that was a great idea. I can't believe he ran away and I said this and blah, blah, blah. I can see once they're in court being like,
right, and then realizing, oh, there's a lot of other backstory that we have to fill in now.
Unless they were just totally delusional and just went right into the like, we just wanted children.
Yeah. But I mean, at this point, they've had
Stephanie has experience in fraud.
So it also wouldn't surprise me if like
years,
it's like
literal years.
This is always in your back pocket, kind of thing.
And that really blew my mind too, reading the articles, being like, and so then they like get them set up in school, and then they are like a couple years later, and you're like, holy shit! Like he just had a couple quiet years of doing this.
Oh, what a great story! Thank you so much for telling it.
That I think we did it. Another one in the can. Got it in one. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Unscrupulous. This is my favorite thing in my life right now.
It is so great. I am blown away every day that people just listen and then like react and message us and like have thoughts and opinions. Oh god, it's so good.
Yes, we like the thoughts and opinions, so please like comment on things, send us emails if you like. We love a dialogue. I actually just got a text from my friend who was like, you hear about this story that would be perfect for your podcast? And I had literally just seen on Instagram Investigation Discovery write about it, and I was like, now I am like, love it, love the engagement. So please, everyone, check out our Instagram at unscrupulouspod. And all of that's going to be in the outro too, but get on there.
What are you waiting for?
Tell your friends about it. Be like, do you need a great new Instagram to follow and a new podcast to listen to? Well, thank you so much, Adam.
This was great, as always. Such a pleasure.
As always. Please join us next week when we look at some more unscrupulous people doing some more dirty deeds. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Unscrupulous Podcast. If you want to hear more from us, you can check us out on Instagram at unscrupulouspod. You could always send us an email with any of your case suggestions or just your admiration for us at unscrupulouspod@gmail.com. Make sure to check out our show notes where you can find information on where we got our resources today. And we will check you out next time.